It's a big podcast. Today, we're going to recap the Rocky Raccoon 100-mile trail race. I completed it 3 weeks ago. It was my third attempt trying to run 100 miles, and we got it done this time. So we're going to break down what it took to get this goal achieved.
Yeah, congratulations to Davis. He's got the belt right here. That's the big thing when you complete it, you get a belt buckle. So he's been wearing that around the house all the time.
Oh yeah, rocking it, showing it to the people.
I mean, rightfully so. Completing 100 miles is no easy feat. And yeah, as Davis mentioned, it was his third attempt, and like Davis has been saying around the house, what is it? You can't have a comeback without a setback or something like that.
Yeah, you can't have a comeback without a setback. It takes a lot of hard work, effort, and some real down times in order to have great achievements. And we gotta say, Brennan was an X factor. The things that he notices, his coaching when it comes to running and everything in life is unbelievable. So big credit to Brennan.
Appreciate those kind words. I wasn't the one that ran it, so
hey, you need your brother.
Hey, Davis did all the hard work, and yeah, I'm just here to support him. But
yeah, and before we break it down, let's thank Uncle Kurt. He's our uncle in Philadelphia. He went all the way down to Texas to help me out throughout the race, and we'll break down exactly what he did as well. It's just absolutely awesome.
Awesome. All right, so I guess we'll start off leading up to. All right, yeah, you want to start leading up to the race, or you want to just describe what the race is and then go up into preparation? What do you think's better?
So the first thing is, this is a 100-mile trail race. So it's 5 loops of 20 miles through a Texas state park. So it's uphill, downhill, you're running on dirt. It's an extremely difficult challenge, just so that you can get an idea of what it takes. The fastest people will finish in about 13 hours, and you have to make it by 32 hours in order to complete the race.
Okay.
So it's a big time endurance challenge, and it takes a lot to get ready for it.
And the not the X factor, but we're from Massachusetts, yes. And this race was down in Texas, as Davis had mentioned. So Davis will get in more detail about the whole travel and whatnot. So that just also goes to show, the original plan was Davis was going to go by himself, and it'd be tough without a crew, just because when we went back in October, we had each other, and our cousin Craig was nice enough to come up and support us at that race, and it is essential to have a crew. So as Davis mentioned, our Uncle Kurt went down, and Davis will get more into depth about that. But all right, you want to talk about leading up to the race? I guess if you watched our previous podcast back in October, Davis and I both attempted to do 100. Davis hit 60, I hit 75. You want to start from there to this race? Like, how did it all come to fruition?
Hey, let's talk about it. Yes, because it was our big goal to hit 100 miles in October, which is about 5 months ago now. Brennan and I went to New Hampshire, about an hour away, and we tried to do a trail run. It was similar as 15-mile laps through a pretty wooded area, difficult terrain, and we came up short that time. Brennan, he had a great race because he hadn't trained as much, and he went 75 miles, but I got stuck at 60 miles. I hadn't prepared enough. I wasn't hydrating properly, and maybe some of my running technique actually in the woods was down, and Brennan picked up on all these things, and we said, hey, if we go out and do this again, this is what we're going to do differently. So from October to February 4th, when I ran the Rocky Raccoon trail race, I trained harder. That was probably the biggest thing, putting in more miles. And I worked on some of these key knowledge points that Brennan had picked up on that made all the difference in the world to be able to finish the 100 miles this time.
So what was, when you say training, like what exactly did that entail? Because Davis has a different training methodology, and I would say it differs from a lot of the ultra runners who say hit that zone 2 heart rate and just get the miles in that way. You want to just kind of explain how many miles you were hitting a week, and also just for people at home to understand how fast you were going most of these runs?
Definitely. Hey, let's break it down. Yes, because I did train a little bit differently. The biggest thing they say is your total mileage. So you want to be running about 100 miles a week, they say. And for me, that was a big build. I'd only run about 70 miles a week before. So I think I hit 10 weeks where I was running at least 80 miles to get prepared for this Rocky Raccoon trail race. I had a couple where I was over 100 miles, a bunch of them where I was like 90, 95, but just that volume where before I'd run 70 miles a week, now I'm running 100 miles a week, and these are fast runs. A lot of people, they'll go out in the woods and they'll run like 10-minute miles, and I would do that probably once a week to get ready, but we live close to Boston, so there aren't that many woods to run in, and there aren't that many people running in the woods. So I'd run on the streets a lot, and I'd usually run somewhere between, about 6-minute miles, maybe a little under 7. But I'm trying to run fast, and it's probably like zone 4, zone 5, heart rate at like 150 to 170, just out there cooking.
Yeah, Davis doesn't care.
I just go out. and run. I mean, I don't really care what pace is. I just let my body tell me, and I just go. And I think one thing that made a difference was I do what they call back-to-back runs. So around here in the Boston area, they have tons of marathon training groups. So I would show up, and one day I'd run somewhere between 15 and 20 miles, cooking it, trying to stay with the fastest people. And then the next day, come back and try to run 15, 20 miles again, where a lot of people would rest that next day, but I'm out there cooking, trying to get my legs stronger, because that's one of the staples of ultramarathon training is back-to-back long runs, and that made all the difference in the world in this race.
Yeah, I remember Davis would come home after hitting 20 miles on Saturday. I mean, I wouldn't be there, but I hear you talk about him at 20 miles on Saturday, then he'd come back out on Sunday, hit another 20, so he's hitting like 35 to 40 miles in 2 days.
Yes.
Which, I mean, it's easier to break it up, and you still, because in the race, you have 32
hours.
So it's pretty much 2 days, and Davis was hitting pretty much these 2 runs within that timeline.
Yes.
So it is smart.
In a 24-hour block. And yes, I finished the Rocky Raccoon race in 24 hours, 6 minutes. So it's just like Brennan's saying, like one day into the next, ready to go.
Yeah. So why this race?
This race I picked out because I saw Nick Bare do it on YouTube. He is an influencer. He's helped Brennan out a ton. A lot of his mentality shift that we've seen the last couple of years, growth and development, was directly due to Nick Bare's book, videos, and everything. So from Brennan, I learned about Nick Bare, and I started following what he's doing. And he is on the game. He gets up, he works out, he's building his company and just helping a huge community of people around him. So when I saw he was out there doing this race, I was like, I want to go out and run 100 miles. I was like, hey, let's do it in Texas. I figured I was still in shape from the race in October. This race is in February. It's just about an hour outside of Houston, Huntsville State Park. So I was like, hey, let's send it. Got off the waiting list with about maybe a month and a half before the race. And I was all in. I was like, make or break, 100 miles, get it done or get carried out.
Yeah, and I remember back in October when we were leading up, I was the one kind of pushing the 100-mile.
Yes.
And you were kind of like, oh, we'll just go out and then run. When did that flip switch to where, like, I want to hit 100? Because I feel like maybe you would have been happy hitting 100 in October, but it really wasn't your goal.
Yes. I think in October, too, I was coming off a couple other races. Early in the year, like I just done Ironman maybe a couple months before. So I could feel my body wasn't as strong. I knew it in October. But after I had the winter to rest up, something flipped. And honestly, talking to the kids I coach in football, they would encourage me. They're like, hey, coach, you're going to go out and run 100 miles. You're going to do it again. They did the same thing. Just that positive encouragement while I'm taking the CFA exam again. I guess the kids, I give them a lot of credit, and they're out there. They're tackling every day. They're hitting. And eventually I was like, you know what? I've got to do it. They steered me in the right direction. And so probably around Thanksgiving, early December, once the football season ended, I was like, let's go. Let's get it done.
They're inspiring.
They are.
That just goes back to our point. It's like no matter who you are, not to plug it, but like no matter what you do, you can inspire.
Yeah, you can.
I mean, shows right here. Davis is inspired by high school kids just pushing to be a better you, which is fantastic. And that's what it's all about. Just like you said, building that movement.
That's what it is all about. Because I see myself in those kids, like wanting to be a good at football, wanting to hit. They're willing to run extra sprints after practice. And I was like, I still have to have that mentality.
Yeah.
So that's why even in the race, I'm out there like, yo, it's like back in football. You get hit, you got hit right back. Let's do it.
Awesome. And then in terms of, I mean, I get to see it on a daily basis, but you want to just kind of give people a glimpse of your nutrition, because maybe we've talked about it in previous podcasts, but out of everyone I've met and seen eat, you do have a very unique diet.
Yes.
You want to just talk about, did it change at all leading up to the race? I feel like you're pretty consistent though, but you want to explain what like your staples?
I also changed the diet in the past few months. I haven't talked too much about it, but I realized it made me faster at running, particularly if I ate carbohydrates that are real carbohydrates, not processed foods. But we'll break it down, because to fuel this training takes a lot. I mean, I was running 100 miles a week. I think I ran 2 marathons, one on the trails, one on the track, in the 3 weeks leading up to this long run. So there's a lot of energy being burned, and I had to fuel it with clean energy. But
what's clean energy?
Energy, I would say. So usually I won't eat before I work out, especially when I'm running, just because otherwise you can get huge stomach problems if you're running that fast. But usually when I eat, first thing is breakfast. I'll eat spinach first. I eat this all in the same order a lot of times. I eat spinach, I eat a banana, an apple, oatmeal and raisins. And when I say oatmeal, it's probably like 1,000 calories worth of oatmeal. But I put that down, and talking about a clean carbohydrate, oatmeal is just, it's straight oats. There's no processed food, no extra sugar. And I found out when I was running, it helped me keep my weight down, and my body must have just burned it faster, because before I could run like 640, 650 miles on the road. Now I can usually run like 6, even a little bit faster. It's crazy.
He's cooking on the track.
Flip the switch. Yeah, even on the treadmill now.
So how much, you mentioned weight, how much were you prior to this build up, and how much were you, I know we'll get more into how much you weighed during the race, but how much were you prior to going down to Texas?
I'm usually right around 175 pounds. Even throughout, I'm usually able to be pretty healthy.
How much were you in October?
In October, I was probably 185.
Oh, wow. So you cut 10 pounds.
Yeah, after the Ironman, just not training as much, I was probably 185 pounds so I was still recovering and coming back. And then this time I was back to that 175 where I want to be, maybe 170 on race day.
Okay. And then what do you eat for lunch type stuff?
Lunch, I'll eat leftovers, whatever we ate the night before, which might be like a plain pasta. I eat a ton of rice and meat. That's probably the biggest thing, because rice, pasta's a little bit processed, but not eating bread I found was big. Some crackers, they have too much processing in them, and I don't know what it is. It just doesn't burn the same way.
Yeah, you don't eat those crackers anymore.
No, I stopped
This
eating
man
crackers.
used to house this specific whole wheat cracker all the time, and so you cut it out.
Yeah, because I realized if I just ate plain oats, plain rice, they're just going to go that much faster.
Interesting.
But yeah, I'll eat the leftovers. So usually just rice, meat, vegetables, maybe another apple, oranges, berries, but I like prunes a lot too. And then for dinner, we come from a healthy family, so we eat salad, again, rice, meat, maybe soups, fish. But it's all, the food isn't processed, and a lot of times it barely has added sugars. But one big thing is on these endurance races, you have to keep your iron levels up. So because of that, I will eat Cheerios. Cereals, Cheerios, grape nuts, anything that has high iron content, like 50% or more of your daily intake.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that was something that came up a few years with Davis, where he had low iron levels and that's common for endurance athletes, because I'm not sure what the anatomy behind that. Can you explain why?
Yes, it's when you're exercising, your body breaks itself down. It's like how your muscles break down, and so eventually your red blood cells break down as well, and they carry iron and oxygen to your muscles. So if you don't have enough iron, you can't carry enough oxygen, and if you don't have enough oxygen, your muscles can't work as well.
There we go. You heard it here first. All right, and then let's talk about going down to Texas.
All right, let's talk about it. Thursday before the race, February 2nd. The race was going to be on February 4th. So that Thursday, I took a flight out early in the morning, 7 a.m., to make sure I got to Texas by about midday there, so I could get off the plane, go to the state park, start checking out what the trails looked like. I probably did like a 2, maybe 4 mile run just to get used to it and just get acclimated. But get checked into the hotel, get ready on Thursday, and just start to build the routines going into Friday when Uncle Kurt would show up.
Yeah, when did you meet him?
Friday afternoon. Uncle Kurt flew out the next day. So on that day, I went from being in the hotel about 15 minutes away to Uncle Kurt had a great idea to rent an RV right in the state park, so it'd be right where the race is taking place. I've got to give a big shout out to Betty and Joey. They gave us the RV through RV Share. They're extremely kind. On that Friday, they met us about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, set everything up. It was like a home on wheels. It was very comfortable, and just their kindness, they really were unbelievable. I mean, Joey, he's like 75 years old. He's still out there hunting, carrying the deers back. So he was one fit guy, and they were just extremely kind to get us pumped up going into the race. So if you ever need an RV somewhere out in Texas near Houston, look them up, Joey and Betty.
There we go. So then what was it like acclimating? Was it that different because it is an hour behind?
No, I would say the time's difference wasn't bad at all. And by chance, it was freezing cold in Texas, so it matched the New England weather up here. Most of my training runs were somewhere between 20 and 40 degree temperatures, sometimes literally in snow. And there was that cold front when it was probably negative 15 up here, but in Texas, it was still like 25, 30, 40 degrees. that weekend. So it matched up well. And the 1 hour time difference, it wasn't bad because I'm usually up at like 5 o'clock anyways.
Yeah.
So getting up early for a 6 a.m. race start is pretty much the same time.
That's good. And well, can you kind of describe what Texas was like? Because I've never been. Is there anything in Mass that's similar to it that you could help connect?
The
or is it
woods
totally
were
different?
a little different. It's not completely different. It's like a hybrid between like some Florida aspects and then Massachusetts aspects. But I'd say the fells where we go running was really similar. So the woods themselves were pretty similar. The ground was softer though. It was interesting to run on it because there were roots all over the place. But overall, I'd say it was similar to what I was training on material-wise. But the biggest thing I noticed about Texas was the people were so kind when we were down there. They're always willing to help out, talk to you, give directions, just really outgoing. And they had a lot of pride. I mean, you go around, you see the Texas flag all over the place. Everything is named after the Texas legends. Like we watched the Davy Crockett movies when we were kids. He was one of the last defenders at the Alamo. They've got a town named Crockett. Sam Houston State University is right there. I mean, just everything is named after the people that shaped that area. So I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome.
Going in, I was like, I got to be Texas tough. Get this done.
Ford built.
And biggest thing, I was driving a Chevy around pickup truck. I've never driven a pickup truck before in my life. That thing was awesome. I was flying around.
What was so great about it?
There's just something about it when you get in the truck and you're just buzzing along the highway. So I don't know, just all really good energy going into the race. And Friday when Uncle Kurt came, I didn't see him in months just because we're in Boston, he's in Philadelphia. So it was awesome to see him start catching up. He ripped some burgers. I couldn't eat it though because I had to make sure I ate clean those couple days leading up. So I was literally just drinking water, having some Gatorade and electrolytes. But mostly eating actually crackers. I ate saltines because once you get close to the race, you want to switch from like whole wheats to just plain wheat so it'll burn faster and you won't have digestion issues. So I was eating, again, rice, oatmeal, crackers to get salt, pretzels, and just real plain diet. Almost no fruit either because you don't want the fiber.
Wow. And you want to take us through the race? So you get down there, race was what, Saturday or Sunday?
Race was started Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Texas time.
So you had about like 24 hours hanging out with Uncle Kurt, getting used to it, and then it was go time?
Then it was go time. Call the family, tell them we love them, and then we're going to be fired up the next day. But one big thing that made a difference this race is I slept a lot the night before. I probably slept 7 hours, I don't know, 10 to 5 or something like that, because if you're going to go out and run for 24 hours, you don't want to be fatigued going in. A lot of people have race day nerves. And that's one of the things I noticed early on. When I was doing these races, I get nervous. Maybe I wouldn't sleep as well the night before, but now getting 7 hours made a big difference.
And how did you make that switch?
Just practice it, I think, over and over.
It's just mentality. You're like, oh, it's okay. Like I'm just going to get after it. I need to get my sleep.
Yeah, I think so. Because I remember the first half Ironman I did down in Florida. You're traveling to a different spot. You're not as certain. I mean, there were like police sirens going off in the middle of the night too, which is kind of unnerving. But you just go in a different place, you're not used to it, and just to get comfortable being there, I think, and just be like, boom, I'm just gonna sleep.
Yeah, because in New Hampshire when we went, I did not sleep well. Exactly. I barely slept the night before. Well, I mean, because remember we were at the hotel and there's people outside by the fireplace and we could hear them through the window. And no, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, it's tough though to get used to the nerves and the anxiety before a race. It's just like the anticipation before.
I think so.
But you kind of just got to realize that the race is going to happen and worrying about it now isn't going to help. So I got to do what's best for me in the moment, which is, as you said, sleep.
Yeah, honestly, I think that sleep the night before is a big factor on performance the next day.
So you wake up, you're ready to go.
5 a.m., let's rock it.
You start in the dark.
High.
And, yeah, take us through the race.
Yeah, I would say it is big because right in the morning, Uncle Kurt and I, we started getting family videos just to capture these moments, make sure I was fired up. But going in, once I woke up, again, I didn't eat anything because I knew I was primarily going to drink my fluids. We had this Scratch sports drink mix that has enough sugar and salt to keep you fueled so you won't cramp up. You'll be able to go without digestion issues. And that was another big game changer in this race because like 5 a.m., maybe I start drinking some of that. But Uncle Kurt and I, we head over, electric atmosphere because it's still dark out there, people all over the place coming out of whether it's a campsite, RVs, driving in from hotels. There's just tons of energy because it's going to be a big day. And a lot of people have support crews with them, so they're I think there's 600 people doing this race. It's sponsored by Hoka, so it's a big event. But you probably have a few thousand people there at the start line getting ready to go nearby this lake in Texas.
That's
6 a.m.,
awesome.
full moon.
So you go out, the energy's high, which usually happens with a race. But like you said before, this is a longer race. So that first lap, did it just kind of go through? Like go by quickly? Everyone was just like, all right, let's do it.
It's going to sound absurd, but the first 20-mile lap, yes, it was easy because you're going at a pretty slow pace. I started out about 11, 12 minutes per mile, and you're grouped up. So there are lots of people. I was talking to these people. They're from Texas. They're doing the race together. I met a guy. Actually, he's really famous on TikTok.
Shout him out.
Shout out to Andy Glaze. The dude is awesome. He literally does 100-mile races every weekend. Really inspirational, but he always wears jean shorts when he rocks these races. So I'm going along, talking to these other guys from Texas, and all of a sudden we come along. Andy's got the jean shorts going. And actually in that first lap, he had to help me stay on track because we're out in the woods, and this wasn't a loop course. You're just kind of winding through the Texas woods. So you had to hit a trail marker every 10, 15 yards or you're going off in the wrong direction. So Andy Glaze, absolute legend, kept me on track at one point because I wasn't sure if I was going the right way. He also wiped out, cut his knee open. He's bleeding probably like mile 10, and he just goes right at it, doesn't phase him. So you see that, and there were people like that. The person who had the 100-mile world record on the track until last year was there. So there were some savages out there.
Let's go.
Crazy atmosphere. But yeah, you start out in the dark. First hour, you've got the headlamp, trying to navigate through the woods, get used to the trail. And that first lap, I cruised through. I probably finished it in like 3.5 hours. Definitely went too fast comparatively, but overall it was solid. It was definitely about the pace I wanted. If I were doing it again, I'd probably go 13 or 14-minute miles to start out.
And you were saying that was going to be too slow.
Yeah, 12-minute miles. Yeah, it was too fast. It's crazy to say just because you're coming from the road where it's literally half as fast as you would run on the road, but this race is just so long.
Yeah.
I'll build up to it.
And I mean, for that first lap, everything's brand new, like you were saying. So it kind of, because I think a big thing people have trouble understanding is running without music.
I think so.
Or Davis, I mean, I don't do it. I don't run with music anymore. But in these long races, you're most likely not running with music just because it's so long and your phone might die and whatnot. And people are like, "Oh my God, what would you even think about for that long?" But your mind just kind of, it drifts almost. It goes into this, like, I like to use the word like a monk mode state. Yeah. I don't know, Dave, you can explain more. Like, where does your mind go on a race? Like, I know first lap, you're talking to other people, but all right, you finish up the first lap, energy's high, you see Uncle Kurt.
Yeah, first lap, the guy that's sitting next to me on the plane also going down was running the race. Another guy, 26, firefighter from Rhode Island, and he was crushing it. So that's part of the reason I went faster too, just to keep up with these people, talk to them the first lap. But when I finished that 20 miles, I see Uncle Kurt. He's got the camera rolling. He's fired up. He's like, "Let's go, Davis." So at every 4 miles, you have an aid stop where you can get water. So I had a backpack on. So I had the energy drink mix, sports drink, Scratch. So I'd get to these stops, put the water, and mix in the Scratch so I could stay hydrated. I was trying to drink at least one water bottle every 4 miles at the aid stations. But when you get to the 20 miles, then you see Uncle Kurt, whoever is there with you. And so there's a bigger checkpoint. So Uncle Kurt had a chair set up in a mini camp. So we hung out for a little bit. I ate a few crackers, get some salt. I ate bananas also to get potassium. And probably take 5-10 minutes, regroup. When we started the race, it was about 25, 30 degrees. At this point, the sun was coming up, so it was probably 50 degrees. So I changed the gear, so I'm just in a T-shirt. Uncle Kurt had me fired up throughout the race, and I was off for lap 2.
And then how was lap 2? Still energy high?
Lap 2 is
You
solid.
threw up, though, on lap 2, though.
Lap 2 is solid. I was humming. I was accelerator to the floor, just going, just hitting the trails hard. But once I got to like mile 35, at that point, you're like a marathon and a half into it or something. And even though you're running slower, you're still exerting a lot of energy to cover the trails. And so I threw up at mile 35, just dry heaving pretty much, not because I was actually sick, probably just my body was shocked. But that was a game changer because once I just let the throw up out, all of a sudden I could run faster. And I was hoofing the last like 5 miles, lap 2 right back. Still fired up. Like, let's go, Uncle Kurt. We're rolling. We're crushing it.
Because I remember I was following Davis along on his Instagram stories. And after the first lap, I could tell energy. I was like, oh, okay, let's go. And then all of a sudden, the next one is like, just threw up. Got like my 7th wind. I'm like, What?
That was the third lap.
Oh, that was the third lap?
Yeah.
Oh.
Once we go to like mile 52 on the third lap, I'm still cruising at this point. Like,
So you threw up second lap and third lap, or you dry heave?
Third lap, probably dry heave, same thing. And I don't know what it was in my body. It just cleared itself. And again, I was just humming for the last like 8 miles of lap 3. There was something, the way this course was set up, there was rolling hills all throughout. I think it was 5,000 to 7,000 feet of elevation gain over the 100 miles. So the first 10 miles, you'd be going uphill a lot. But the second 10 miles, it was more flat to downhill. So on the back half of each lap, I'd really get the motor going. I'd be like, yo, let's go. And just really just cruise.
That's how you have to do it. So then by the time you finish the third lap, it's probably getting dark out. People are probably heading home. Is that when it starts being like that? When it starts settling in it, especially because 60 was the last time you stopped.
Yes.
So when you hit 60, what were your thoughts? Were you like, "Oh, I got this," or was there any doubt in your mind? Or
the big thing was actually about mile 57. Something hit me when I got that like 7th, 8th wind. I knew I was going to finish the race. I was feeling strong because I hit 60 miles a little bit over 12 hours, and it was faster than my split at the last race. And I still had way more energy. All those miles training paid off. I was also well hydrated every 4 miles, getting water, scratch, energy drink, bananas, whatever I needed. And so I knew I was going to be able to finish this thing. Even if I walked it, I could have made the 32 hours. But I just felt good. So again, we put the headlamps back on. I had to put the sweatshirt on again because the temperatures were dropping. And going into the night, I felt really good. My pace slowed, partially because I was getting tired. I'd never run that far before, but also it's just tougher to navigate through that area in the dark. It just slows you down somewhat.
did you run into any wildlife out on the trails?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, nothing crazy. I mean, before the race, I'd seen deer, some other things in the state park that were really cool. But every now and then, there'd just be like a rabbit running across the path. We didn't run into any gators, which was good. But no serious wildlife, I would say. Some birds would startle you, though, in the night.
So you're 56 miles and you're like, I'm going to complete this. Did you have any low points throughout this race?
Oh, wait till we get in lap 4, about mile 78. I'm cruising, but my legs are killing. At one point, I can barely bend them, so I'm coming downhill, mile 78, and I almost run into a tree because my legs aren't bending. So I put my hands against the tree. I literally just drop down to the ground, get on all fours, and just use gravity to lean back and stretch my legs because my quads wouldn't bend. They just ripped open. And at that point, I could, again, just get up and start moving. But my body was just, it was feeling it at that point.
So lap 4 was that kind of the tipping point in a way where your body was like, oh, this is getting tough. And then you kind of pushed through it.
Yeah, once I hit there, and I mean, there are people all over the trail, so I'm out there doing a 10, 30-second stretch. People are coming by, hey, are you okay, man, whatever, are you going? I'm like, don't worry about me. I'm just going to get this stretch and just keep moving again.
Yes.
To get rolling. But there was some, I mean, you saw some crazy stuff out there. There was great support from the community. There were people out in front of their houses with drinks. They would be yelling, getting pump-up music going. So it was just a great vibe. But I was just focused, just going trail marker to trail marker, because I knew if I get lost in the woods at night, it's going to be bad.
Even when the sun went down, you still had that mentality?
Yeah, I would say so. I was focused, and because I knew going down there, it's make or break. I mean, we captured going in some of the training so that people could see it, and I said I was going to do it, so I knew it. One way or another, I was going to get it done. Let me just die in the woods.
Yeah, and then most people probably don't know your ankle was really, really swollen. Do you remember when in the race you twisted your ankle?
So this race is famous because it's got roots, rocks all over the place. So even in the video, you see like Nick Baird twisted his ankle early on. There were other people during the race that were twisting their ankles. And while I was running, it was just happening. You hit a root, hit kind of funny, and your ankle would twist. But I was okay. I just keep getting up, running, and it wasn't really hurting throughout the race. So
his ankle was so swollen.
Yeah,
I'll probably try to edit. I'll try to edit and put a picture up on the screen right now so you can kind of see. But it was so swollen.
Yeah.
So
I probably twisted my ankle 10 times.
Yeah, that's crazy. Did you fall at all, or you just kind of like stumble?
You just stumble because they also had intense flooding in the days leading up to the race. So the ground was soft and wet. So it made it even that much more difficult to get good footing throughout this thing.
Yeah, and then also kind of to plug, so Uncle Kurt did take some fantastic videos, and our most recent video was pretty much all those videos and then also the videos Davis took combined into one. So I definitely recommend taking a look at that one because that gives you a very good insight.
Yeah. But I'll say when I'm out in the woods too and I've got like 5-10 miles left with it, I'm just like, I'm going back. I'm making it to the checkpoint. I'm going to see Uncle Kurt. We'll get fired up and then I'll just send it out again. So there definitely is something about having him there as a family member. And he's done a lot of races and CrossFit before too. So he knew what to say and make sure that I was in the right mental state. Because I could see when we're watching those videos, I didn't realize it when I was out there. But I start getting like crazy as you're going through the race. And you can see it, but I'm still thinking the same thing. So like, let's hit it.
Shout out to Uncle Kurt.
Uncle Kurt, absolute legend. Let's go. Thank you for sending it to that race. And that made a major impact, definitely, on my mental state, being like, hey, no matter what, 100% we've got this. You'd be like, let's go, let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what family's for.
People around us. I mean, because at this point it's dark. When I'm checking in at mile 80, the people next to us, the Saladays, they had a father-son combo racing. They gave us extra water because we were running out at one point. Some other people came over with a light so we could see all the gear and get ready for this last lap. And these laps at night, they definitely weren't that fast. I mean, it probably took 5.5 hours to go 20 miles. But it was just...
So, like, when you were going, like, on the 5th lap, I mean, probably you're like, all right, 1 lap left, let's get it.
Yeah,
but
matter what.
For instance, on the 4th lap, if you're starting to slow down and you're starting to walk, how'd you keep yourself focused? Because I remember when I was walking, I'd be like, oh, my God, this is taking forever. Like, this sucks. Where you just kind of, all right, 1 foot after another, 1 foot after another, 1 foot after another.
So I think the big thing is when we were in New Hampshire at the October race, Brennan noticed that the people who were going late in the race were they're doing a shuffle jog once they got tired at night, and they had shorter strides so are less likely to trip and hit roots. It was almost like they were cross-country skiing. So it was kind of like a run, but it was just kind of like they were powering themselves forward. So instead of getting stuck walking and be like, oh, this is going to take me 20 minutes to get a mile done, instead I would do that power shuffle, cross-country ski technique you had, getting your arms into it. It was effective, where I'd probably still get 14-minute to 17-minute miles. So I still had momentum, whether you're going uphill or downhill. And that made a serious difference because I was like, okay, I'm just chugging along. I've just got to keep doing this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep slugging away these miles.
And it plays like a game on your, because you're still making progress. Where I feel like when you start walking, then you feel like you're not making progress, and it's a lot easier for your mind to be like, oh my God, I got 25 more miles left. This is going to take 20 hours. And then you're like, oh, I'll just call it. Yeah. Where if you're just shuffling, it's huge. Jogging. Like, people just shuffle along and they just make up time. I mean, 5 minutes quicker per mile is huge.
Hours at that
huge.
Point. And I think, too, because you're telling yourself, I'm running. Because if you're at a point where you're walking, you're like, oh, man, this is tough. But if you're running, hey, I'm running. At weird points in the race, all of a sudden I'd be running faster. Like, your body just recovers and goes. So I think just to give yourself that opportunity to run was completely different. Because
Davis and I were talking earlier about David Goggins, and he has a big thing about the cookie jar. So when you're in these moments where you feel like you can't go and you just reach back and all of a sudden you might get a second win. Sounds like you experienced those. Were there things that just happen, or did you reach back on previous things in your life?
All of a sudden it would just hit me. I'd be like, okay, I can run. Like, maybe I'd throw up, I can run again. But I'd say things that I really think about in those moments, I think about all the people who care about me, who love me, family, friends, just everyone who supports me. And there's something really strong about that. And yes, the memories come into play. Like, I remember football, we're going to hit, like, oh, this guy hit me, I'm going to go out and get him again. So there definitely are some things like that. Or I'll think about just going out, running around. And yeah, it definitely comes back. But I'd say I get more positive energy as opposed to negative emotions that people deal with in those races.
And then, all right, take us to that 5th lap. You come in on the 4th.
It's all heart.
And where you knew you were going to hit at that point.
I knew it.
And there's a great video of you crossing the finish line.
Oh, yeah.
What were your emotions when you knew you were going to get it, like, right at that end when you could see the finish line?
When I could see the finish line, I was just fired up. So there were people. One thing, I talked some trash during the races too.
What?
Yeah, when I see these people out there, I'll be talking to them like, let's go, let's get after it, let's get fired up. There are fans all over the place.
So it's not like talking trash, it's more of just talking and it's that bringing that positive energy. It's not, because I feel like when people say talk trash, it's a negative thing.
Yeah. Okay. You talk hype up.
Yeah, Dave.
For the most part.
Okay.
But yeah, when you come in, you start seeing people and you'll be like, let's go all day long. And so when I'm like in the last few hundred yards, you're coming by the lake, you can see the Hoka sign, and I see Uncle Kurt with the video, and I'm just like, man, I'm just gonna go these last couple hundred yards, pick up the pace a little. And you can see when I'm going across the finish line, it's not that fast, but I feel like I'm powering.
Yeah. Wait, real question though. How many times do you think you said let's go?
Let's go. I'd say it's like 100 to 200 times per hour.
Dude,
that's my
your
go-to.
slogan, dude.
When I get tired or whatever, I'm just like, let's go. And I remember something, it just clicks in. But when I hit that finish line, it was just awesome. I was like, we did it. We got it done. And I still felt great, honestly. I had energy. I didn't feel tired. And I was ready to roll. And
wow.
just to see Uncle Kurt, give him a hug, tell him thank you. I mean, just see all the people that support, all the volunteers throughout the race. It was awesome. It was a major goal. It took 24 hours and 6 minutes, and it was just a great adventure.
Wow. Yeah. And then what happens after the race? Like, you just cross the line and you drop down and sleep, or you go and get in a cheeseburger, and what happens? I'd
say a mix of both. After, we just took it all in. So we hung out at the finish line, take some videos, take some pictures, because it's just such a great opportunity. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever be doing something like that again. So just to take it all in, we hung out down by the end of the race for probably a half an hour, sat down, got some water, some more food, which is just bananas. Pretty much bananas and crackers. So we're just hanging out.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So the entire race, you just drank Stretch energy drink, the hydration mix.
Yep.
And you ate bananas and crackers. That's it.
Bananas and saltine crackers. Because when I was like 4
years... You hear it here first.
Saltine crackers. When I was like 4 years old, they'd give them to us to eat at kindergarten, and you'd always sit and eat them with your friends. So I love them, and have more positive vibes during the race.
Okay. All right, sorry.
But yeah, think about, I don't know how many calories I burned, maybe 10, 15,000. I probably I ate a few thousand calories worth of crackers, bananas. Wow. So definitely not the most appetizing, but enough to get it done.
Yeah.
Just hanging out, sitting down. At this point, I could probably realize my legs weren't really hurting that much. It took me a real long time to walk and move around so that we could hang out and then go to the truck and drive back to the RV. But overall, I didn't realize the pain until later that day.
So you walked back to the RV, which is parked at because this is at a campsite.
Yeah, it's at a campsite.
So it's what, like 10-minute walk from the finish line?
Yeah, probably 10-minute walk from the finish line to the car, and then we drove a half mile to the RV. The RV was really close.
So then you just go in there and you pass out?
Not exactly. I mean, just hang out for a little bit, drink some water again, because you're still so depleted. But yeah, at that point, without sleeping for that amount of time. And Uncle Kurt didn't sleep at all either. He stayed out for the whole race. He was there the whole time. So then we took a nap for a couple hours, probably till probably from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Just rested up, and then right after called the family. Just tell them thank you for giving me all these opportunities in life, that I love them. So I'll call parents, siblings, grandparents, call Auntie Beffy too.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we're so fortunate to have, is such a supportive family. And 100%. I mean, everyone is like, we're rooting for you, you're rooting for us. We're all here to just see everyone succeed, and we're there when people fail too, which is, it's really special.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
we're so lucky. We've got a big family. We're all close. Most of us live in the same, a couple towns, and a few hours away as well. So we see each other a lot.
Wow.
But yeah, just because it takes more than one person, it really does take a whole team, bring people up.
Yeah, the famous Nick Bear quote that I don't think he came up with it. If you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
It's facts, but
it's awesome.
So then, I guess, so why did you run 100 miles? I know you mentioned it was a bucket list, because I don't know. I find like your mentality is really unique. Because you hear a lot of these stories like Goggins and all these other people, like you said, that almost are trying to self-master their mind in a way. And 100 miles race is one of those things where you're going to hit most likely breaking points physically and mentally, and you have to push through it. And they're trying to dig a little deeper in what people call their pain cave. But I feel like that's not the case for you. Do you want to explain, like, why do you take on these endurance challenges?
Yes. So before I get to the answer, I'll say there definitely was pain included in this one.
Yeah, but you look at pain in a different way.
Yeah, because after the race, after that 11 o'clock time or whatever, after we called the family, we went out, we got some Texas steaks, just got refueled, saw a little bit more of the town. And also, I hadn't taken a shower, so I'd been just out in the cold. I still had my shoes tied and everything.
So you slept in your clothes?
So I slept in my clothes, yeah. And then we packed up the RV. Joey and Betty picked it up. It's probably like 3 o'clock. We go back to the hotel, and I take a shower, and I'm warm probably for the first time, and everything swelled up again, including my ankles, what we were talking about. So these races take a tremendous toll. I mean, my ankles, I could barely bend my feet after. So people wonder, why do you go out and do these things? And for me, it was a bucket list item. I wanted to go out and run 100 miles, see if I could push myself that far before I got too old and had too many responsibilities, honestly.
When did it become a bucket list item, though?
I would say, I mean, from the time I was a little kid, I like to just push myself and see how far I could go. I mean, we would always do the pacer test. We see how many times you can run back and forth across the gym. When we'd visit our grandparents in Florida, we'd see how many times we could rollerblade around the complex.
So it's like your competitive side.
Yeah, it's the competitive side. And I would say, especially after the pandemic, I had a couple of these goals I want to hit. And the 100 miles was the last one, where if I die and that's the last race that I do, I'll be more than happy. Because
what about Mount Everest? No,
I don't know about that one, but even the past last year I did a marathon, half Ironman, and then this 100-mile race was the last one I wanted to do. So that's why I wanted to do it so badly, because I knew this winter I was still going to be in shape for it, and I had to get it done, because you never know what life's going to throw at you, or even if you're going to be walking the next day, to be able to do something like that.
That is so true. I mean,
just to get the full life experience, to do everything that you want to before time's up.
Yeah, because that's the one thing we don't get back is time.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And it's just fun. I just like it also. I like to go out, just give it a shot. If I get it, great. If I can't get it, then just try it again until I do.
I feel like people have a hard time understanding how you can find that fun, because there's so many people that hate running, that hate doing, and they just can't fathom.
Yes.
But I mean, yeah, everyone's fun is a little different. And I know you probably had a big runner's high after, and it's a sense of accomplishment, and it's a journey. You're out there for 24 hours just getting after it.
Yeah.
Which is great. A question that I have for you, does this like trickle over into other aspects of your life when you complete stuff like this?
This is one thing we talk about a lot, is I don't think that these one-day experiences necessarily transfer over into a lot of things that you're going to be doing, because things in life are so different. I mean, because I work in financial technology, like coding, math, so there's not going to be a direct correlation, I don't think. I think there are lessons you can take away where...
Like what? If you had to give us like one or two.
I had to give, the number one lesson I learned is, if you want something in life, you just have to get after it with everything you have. I mean, saying for a few months, I'm just going to be running constantly because I want to hit this goal. If I'm out there in the backwoods, I'm going to go for it. And even now I'm studying for the CFA, which I think will probably be tougher than the 100 miles.
Wow.
People call me crazy, but everyone has different skills and abilities. So I'd say for us, like, running comes pretty easily, where this other test, again, I failed twice. So maybe it is similar to the running as well. Fail twice, you have to go for it a third time. I made it running to get that 100 miles. We'll see if I can get it in finance. But I don't think it's life-changing. I think the things that are going to change you over time more are, like you're saying, the process, the people you're going to meet along the way, what they're going to say to you, make you feel, encourage you. And yeah, that's really, I think it's not one day, it's just the whole time period.
Dude, I agree with you 100%. And that's something I've been thinking about too. Because your identity really, it's not so much like you said, one day. I mean, one day can legit.
That one day was awesome.
Yeah.
So much fun.
And it's the power of moments. But what makes up a life is what you do on a consistent basis. And that truly makes up your identity. Like, you could have a great day one day. And I mean, it's tough because, especially, I mean, we'll use sports. It's like, if you put all this preparation and then you go out and let's say you have a really good game, you could gain millions of followers, you could get multiple contracts, but it's that one moment that pretty much flipped the seesaw, but it was all those moments that led up to it that really mattered. And that's something I've been thinking about, where it's like, a lot of the time these moments go by like that. Like 24 hours seems like a long time, but now when you're probably looking back, you're like, oh, we did it.
Day.
But then when you stack up all these days, that's what really builds your identity. I gotta think about that with like work, where it's like your routine really builds your identity as a person, and you'll have these moments of excellence or failure that kind of shift your daily habits, but it's really your daily habits that make up one's life.
I agree.
It's wild.
Yeah, because there's so many things that lead up to that one moment.
And a lot of times you can forget moments where if you're doing a habit for 10 years, it's who you are, where it's like, oh, this happened that one day, that was great, or that happened that one day, that was bad. But it's weird.
Yes, yeah, it's not just one moment. It's Lionel Messi's famous saying that he became an overnight superstar over 17 years.
Yeah, but you also have to perform on that moment.
Yes, because it all comes down to that. You can do everything to prepare, but if you can't get it done when it matters,
then no one remembers who you are.
Because most people are remembered for only a few moments.
Which is wild.
Like when we think about Davy Crockett, you think about the Alamo and maybe some of his adventures being it's like 5 things.
Yeah, I heard it. I mean, this is kind of off topic, but I heard this thing, like your life is almost like a sandcastle on the beach, and the water's coming up, and eventually the water will take over your sandcastle and then erase it, and that's pretty much what your life is.
Yes.
Where you can build this elegant life, but eventually time will erase it in a way. And like you said, a lot of times people are just remembered for moments, even though these moments are just they're so small in your life, which is crazy. And it's, I don't know. I've been thinking about that. It's funny that you brought that up.
Yes.
All right. Do you have any other last points that you want to share to the audience?
Last points that people might be interested in is over the course of the race, I lost about 15 pounds. Yeah. So started the race at about 175 pounds. Finished. We did a weigh-in. We actually stopped at a random college weigh-in. They're having a track practice. The coach was nice. We chatted him up, but let us use their scale. And I was probably about 160 pounds after.
Wow. Could you feel the difference?
Drinking. I could. Like, if you touch my arms, you could feel the muscle wasn't there anymore. I mean, even now, it hasn't come back completely. It's weird. But I guess you put it all on the line and your body will do what it has to get that challenge done.
It will adapt. That's a big thing that we've also been talking about. It's just adapting.
Yeah. And so I'd say that is good. And then now we're 3 weeks away from this race. So I've started recovering again. I mean, the first couple days after the race, I was just hanging out in Houston. Uncle Kurt flew back home after the race, so I'd just be walking around Houston, and it hurt. Like my legs, I'd be walking through the city. All of a sudden, I'd just have to sit down. It was crazy. But after like 4 or 5 days, I was feeling way better. I could jog again. And now, I mean, a couple weeks out, I'll go out and run like 20 miles some days, 10 miles. I'm feeling good.
Yeah,
it's ready to rock. I'm biking and swimming though more. I've got to be smart and make sure I don't break anything.
I'm glad you brought this up because this brought up another train of thought. Where a lot of time, I mean, from what I've seen, is a lot of times people will do these big races and then take some time off. Not Davis.
Gotta go out there next weekend, get some miles.
And he's out here running, he's out here biking. Our family's like, Davis, you should relax. That's another thing. We have such a supportive family, but there are some family members that don't understand why Davis does this stuff, and they try to. They question what he's doing because they just don't understand.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's fun.
But at the same time, they love Davis and they want the best for him, so they're there to support. But at the same time, it's good to have people that question.
You have to,
because you don't want to have people that always are just agreeing with you. As the famous thing is, you don't want a bunch of yes people around you.
Yeah, because the best question I got from one of our family members was a couple days before the race. They said, "Well, you're going down to Texas. What are you doing? What are you going to do if you don't make the 100 miles?" And that moment, I said, "I'm going to make the 100 miles no matter what." 2 days, 3 days before. And I think just questions like that really make you question, why are you going out there? Why are you doing this? For me, it's just, I'm just going to do it. No doubt about it. I'm just going to go out and run and get it done.
Let's go.
So yeah, you need people like that to make you question yourself.
Yeah.
And dig you deeper.
I mean, it's essential. You don't want people that are always like, yeah, you're right. Because no one's ever right.
No.
100% of the time.
And yeah, even now, maybe I am being crazy. You just go out, probably running too far, biking too far, swimming too much right now. But there's something about it. You just got to live life and have fun. I mean, I get if you're a professional athlete, that's your job. You got to be responsible and make sure you're at top performance. But me, I'm just going out there having fun.
Yeah, because I mean, going back to your training, a lot of people do question your training and they say that you go too fast.
Too hard, too fast.
Are you concerned at all about burnout?
No. I just know I'm not going to burn out. I mean, we'll see. I'm going to try to be more scientific. People have great points and advice, And even like the other day, I was using this stepping stone workout, and I could see on the treadmill my pace was like 20, 30 seconds faster. So I'm going to try to be more scientific going forward. But if my body breaks down, it breaks down. I got another great quote.
Here we go.
After we went to a football coaching conference the next weekend, and one of the things that the coaches, they coached me in high school. Now I'm working with them. They're saying, Davis, run until you can't run anymore and your legs fall off. So that's what I'm going to do.
There we go. All right, you hear it here first and last, and Davis is a beast.
Brennan's a beast too. I hope Brennan, Evan, Camille, my siblings do a lot more than I do. That's the biggest thing. So I just want to set the example, and hopefully they'll beat absolutely everything that I do. That's the goal.
Appreciate that, Davis. And I think that's another special thing we have with our siblings too, is that we don't get jealous of one another. And you hear about that happening throughout history, where siblings will be jealous of one another and actually take them out and kill them sometimes and take over the throne.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, we root for one another. We want each other to do good, and we feed off that energy. So if it's like, if Davis is pushing himself, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm so jealous of Davis. Like, why does he have that and I don't? It's more of like, all right, Davis is doing that. He's elevating the bar. Now I got to elevate it.
Else.
And then our little brother, Evan, he's out here grinding too, and he's elevating the bar. And then our sister's out here grinding, and she's elevating the bar. And we're just all feeding off the energy. And that's something that's
top level.
I mean, that it's special. And yeah, I think that's key. Like, I hope we keep that.
Yes.
And I hope we never get jealous of one another no matter what. And I hope we just keep on, because there's plenty of room for all of us to be successful.
I agree. And to make each other successful. That's the biggest thing. If Brennan and Evan didn't beat me down at the track 2 years ago, 10-mile race, they whooped me, beat me till I was sick after. So, and that's what it took, because you need people like that to push you, and it's so important.
Yeah, because I remember in college, I mean, this is a tangent, but I'm just going to say it because we're on the topic.
Go for it. There's nothing like siblings. I love you all.
And I was kind of finding my way throughout college. I was good academically, but I was doing a lot of partying and whatnot, and not really improving myself as an individual. And I remember this one time, I mean, Evan and Davis were both grinding in college. Davis was doing a lot of sports. He was doing a lot of good stuff academic-wise. And our little brother, too, who hopefully we will get on the podcast. We said once we get to 10K subscribers, he'll come on. So we'll get there and we'll get him on. But he's a beast, and he's really, really dedicated with whatever he does, and particularly in school was his academics.
Triple major, 2 minors for him. He's in the investment fund club.
Yeah, and he's doing big things now. And I remember we were walking home from like Eisenberg or something. I was just lost in my life, and we ran into some finance kids, and they were like, "Oh," Evan introduced me to the kids, and the kid was like, "Oh, so you're Davis and Evan's brother. You're the third brother." And that I kind of hit me. I was like, damn, like I've never been referred to as like the other brother. And that was kind of eye-opening, where, hey, it's okay. It happens. And it was kind of a wake-up call in a way, where I had to get back on the horse and get after it again. And yeah.
And your transformation the last few years is unbelievable.
Thank you, Davis.
We've got to do a podcast about it. We've got the number one philosopher in America right here.
But no, that moment, that was a wake-up call, where it's like, hey, I got to get after it. I love saying it's either you're getting better or you're getting worse, and I was getting worse. In some aspects, I was getting better, but in the aspects that I feel like actually matter, I was getting worse. And no, Evan and Davis were really supportive through that. And yeah, I was never jealous of what they were achieving. It just made me realize I got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Let's go.
Next podcast, we're going to get into Brennan's journey. He's got some big events coming up. Maybe that's the key story that we've got to bring out, because we're extremely proud of Brennan. And just, I can't say enough. You're going to be shocked on the next podcast. Listen in.
All right, you got any last words, Davis?
I'll just say,
congratulations, man.
All right, thank you, Brennan. I'll just say I love my family with all my heart. They're the best. Let's keep going.